Communication impairments often lead to difficult behaviors. Individuals who are unable to express their wants and needs verbally often resort to behaviors to get these needs met. For example, a student who is overwhelmed by our work demands that we put on them, or maybe they just need help with an assignment, may not be able to express that verbally, so therefore they resort to negative behaviors to escape the situation. This is often very effective. Many times, students are removed from the classroom, sent to the office, or sent to a timeout area, or even get to go home due to negative behaviors. On the other hand, students may want the attention of their peers or adults in their environment. Because they're unable to do that in a positive way, or if they don't know how to join a conversation or participate in a discussion, they may resort to behaviors to get the attention of others in their environment. Sometimes even subtle communication differences can lead to problem behavior. Oftentimes, individuals with Asperger's or high functioning autism can become overwhelmed in social situations when they're having a difficult time interpreting the communication of others, or they feel misunderstood by others during social interactions. This can be an overwhelming feeling or a feeling of frustration that often leads to withdrawal and isolation or emotional outburst. Also, sometimes there are patterns of communication or the patterns of communication exhibited by individuals with autism can lead to misunderstandings that can create major problems for these individuals. For example, I had a young man who, although he was quite successful in his algebra class and his science class at high school, had never really learned how to use yes and no correctly. So whenever he was asked a yes/no question, he simply answered yes. On one occasion, he was more or less lost in the high school. He was new in the building, and the principal approached him and asked him, "Did you know that you're not supposed to be in this area of the building?" And of course, the young man answered yes. And then he said, "Well, did you come in here even though you knew you weren't supposed to?" And he answered yes. Well, now the principal's getting frustrated, so he asked him, "Do you want to spend the rest of the day in ISS?" And guess what the student replied? "Of course, yes." Well, luckily, the case manager was able to intervene and explain the situation to the principal, and the situation was resolved. However, this could have escalated into a major issue, all because of the student's communication differences. I cannot stress enough how important it is to understand the communication of the students that you work with. Also, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for us to help our students to learn to be better communicators. Perhaps the greatest thing that you can do to decrease problem behavior for a student is to increase their communication skills. It is also one of the most valuable things that you can do to help improve the quality of life for that student. Let's think back to our discussion on program planning. Program planning is never more important than when we're addressing the communication needs of our students. It is absolutely essential that we understand exactly where the deficits are for our students. Sometimes students with autism may have splinter skills. For example, our students may be able to name or label lots of things. Sometimes their vocabulary may even seem more advanced than their peers, yet they still don't know how to answer WH questions or ES/no questions or how to use language in a functional way. As case managers for students with autism, or even just as an advocate for a student with autism, we must insist upon a good, solid plan to address communication needs. It's the single most important thing that we can do for our students. There's lots of good programs out there. I encourage you to consult with a speech therapist to make sure that any student that you're working with has had a good assessment and has a good plan with solid goals in place. Before you begin your assignments for this week's module, I'd like for you to view the YouTube video. There's two things that I'd like for you to glean from the video. One is the realization that not being able to speak doesn't mean that an individual does not have a lot to say. The other is that we cannot assume that just because someone cannot speak, that they cannot understand us. We must be respectful of individuals who do not have verbal language. Please be careful not to talk about someone as though they're not there, or to talk over them as though they are not a person. I hope you enjoy this week's modules. I think you'll benefit from some good information. Have a good week, and I look forward to our discussions.